Welcome to Matt Riley Bakes, the Daddy Daycare Chronicles. Today's recipe is for these beautiful rainbow meringue kisses. It's a pretty simple recipe, but they can be pretty tricky to make. Someone has managed to steal one, and so no one is having any sleep this afternoon. Let's get started. The first rule of any meringue making is always to make sure everything is really clean. It's better to use a glass bowl or a metal bowl than it is a plastic one, because plastic ones can hold grease a lot easier. Also use metal spoons and metal spatulas if you've got them rather than the plastic ones. I'm going to weigh out 4 egg whites. Try to ensure that none of your shell or yolk goes in. If the shell goes in, you can fish it out, it's not too much of a problem. So I've got 130 grams of egg white. I'm going to double that with caster sugar, so 260 grams of caster sugar. I'm going to start my mixer off on a slow mix. If you haven't got a stand mix like this, you can use an electric hand whisk. I wouldn't recommend doing it by hand. With the beater, it will take you a while. So once your mix has been going for about 30 seconds, you can start to really crank up the speed. You want it going pretty quick. Okay, that's been mixing for a couple of minutes and it's reached pretty stiff peaks. I'm going to now carry on mixing whilst adding the sugar a spoonful at a time. So with all the sugar in, I've now got to wait until all the sugar has dissolved in there. That's going to carry on mixing on high power for another 3 or 4 minutes. Whilst that's doing, you can preheat your oven and get your piping bags ready. So you're going to need a disposable piping bag like this, and you're going to want to turn it inside out. Next up, you're going to need to get your gel food colour. Don't use the liquid food colourings, you need the gel ones. They come in pots or little tubes like this. So you need to make lines with your gel. I'm going for yellow on this one. I'm going to do a couple of stripes on this side, and then I'm going to flatten them down using a pastry brush. I'll flip the bag over, and on this side I'm just going to do one. So now the tricky bit, you've got to turn the bag back the right way round. Doesn't matter if your lines get a bit smudged, but be as careful as you can. I've just tested my mixture. You can get a bit of rub it between your fingers, and if you can feel any of the grains of sugar, carry on mixing. There we go, that's feeling totally smooth now, so I'm gonna pop my mix in my bag. An easy way to fill your bag is to pop it into either a pint glass or something like this, and using a metal spoon, pop your meringue mix in. Try not to smear too much of the food colouring off on the way in. This mix is enough to do 2 bags worth, so you can change colour halfway through if you fancy. So once you've got some meringue in the bag, shake it down. You don't just want to squeeze it down, because you don't want to knock all the air out that you've spent so long putting into the meringue. You've got to treat it with a little bit of love at this point. So next up, you want to get a baking tray lined with some parchment paper. You can use a little bit of the meringue mix to stick the paper down. Just going to snip the end of my piping bag. I'm not using a nozzle, and without squeezing out any of the air, the meringue mix, you can start piping. So the way you want to pipe your meringues is you need a small boy eating lunch within about 2 or 3 foot. You just want to hold your piping bag straight down and have a constant pressure. When it gets to the size you want, pull it away sharply, give it that nice little peak. Then it's into the oven, which I've set on non-fan today, about 120 or about 100 fan, if you can't turn your fan off. They're going to go in for about 45 minutes. The way you'll be able to test if they're done is if they lift off the paper easily and they've obviously got a nice shell to them. It's all right to turn the oven off and leave them to cool in there as well. Roo, should we do some green ones now? Green? What do you think? Tomato? Yeah, I'll go green. Thanks for the advice. So there we go, they've been in the oven for about 45 minutes. They lift off the paper easily and you can feel they've got a nice solid shell. I'm going to leave them to cool down completely before I eat them. So there we go, these are delicious on their own, great as presents or perfect to decorate a cake with. I hope you enjoy making them. Thanks for watching, see you next time.